In the hills of North Carolina, you can find car lovers of all varieties and ages. From custom classics to rides of a different style, and rare finds that even collectors would love to get their hands on. Welcome to Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides from Denver, North Carolina at the Steele Rubber Products 2016 Open House. Kids and adults alike love coming out and seeing the cars, trucks, and even some that are a little more bizarre.
It's 1955 Dodge, job rated body. I actually found it in Denver. A friend of mine was looking for a body shop, a building to buy, and this truck was in it. And he just happened to mention it to me, and one thing led to another. I went over to look at it, and we ended up buying it. We put it on a older Penske Cup chassis, so it handles really, really well and stops good. And we put a little 6-cylinder Chevy in it, so we get 22 miles to the gallon. So it makes a nice daily driver. The day I bought it, I said, this will make a good rat rod body, and then one thing led to another, and that's where we ended up. I mean, you go to these shows and people just got great imaginations when it comes to cars, so it's like you see one thing, you like it, you don't like it, or you come up with an idea yourself, and you know, I thought the saw blade was unique, and I've got compliments on that, and I've also got compliments, oh, I saw that on something else. I'm like, really? So you don't know that, you know, you thought it was an idea of yours, but then you come across another one somewhere else. So it kind of grew on me at first. I didn't like the body style, but as I've gotten it to where it is, it kind of grown on me. So it's all right. If your dog jumped up on the door, I wouldn't be mad. You know, I'd laugh. You might be mad because your dog jumped on my truck, but it doesn't matter. Like this, I waxed it this morning, but it still doesn't shine. You know what I mean? So did I wax it? No, I didn't.
It's a 1955 Army Willis military Jeep. Well, I've always wanted one. My dad bought this Jeep at an estate auction in West Jefferson. And as soon as I saw it, I told him, I said, Pap, if you ever sell that Jeep, I got first dibs on it. I never thought he would sell it. He's the commander of the Boone American Legion, and he wanted it for parade, to drive in parades, 4th of July, Veterans Day, that type things. So, like I said, I never thought he'd sell it, but finally he decided that he had found a 1930s A model that he wanted, and he told me he was going to sell the Jeep, so I ended up with it. I've got a couple other old cars. I've got a 64 Corvette, a 07 Z06, and like I said, the 67 Mustang. But this one garners far more attention than any of those other cars. I was telling a buddy of mine the other day, I stopped in the grocery store after church last Sunday, and before I could get out of the parking lot, 3 people had stopped me on my way out of the parking lot to talk about this Jeep. So anytime you run into military guys, former military guys, they always want to talk about that Jeep. I had a little plastic one, the little plastic green ones when I was a little boy, and I've always wanted one, and I was just fortunate to come up with this one, and it's just really special because it was my dad's too, and so we kind of share that. He even though he didn't really cut off anything on the price, but he contends that we still share ownership in it.
We caught up with Steele Rubber Products president Matt Agosta about this year's event and the rides that he's seen so far.
This is our 9th year of having this show, and we've been blessed the last few years of just having fantastic weather and a fantastic number of cars here. I mean, you look around this show and it's got such a variety of cars. I don't think I've gone to any of the car shows where you get a variety like you do here, from old classics to 60s, muscle cars, rat rods, you name it, we've got it here. There's just so many different cars, and I've been walking around for 2.5 hours and I still haven't had a chance to see them all. it's been a great show. You know, our neighbors help us, and we've got just about most of the people in the shop involved in doing something. And the nice part about this show is that everybody goes around, people talk to each other, they have a good time going around. There's no, heavy duty judging. No, it's just come out and have a good time. That's what this show is about.
Coming up, a classic convertible made with handcrafted care on Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides. Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steele Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Vintage Flats, spray what the pros use. B&M Racing and Performance, quality performance products that work. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation. Welcome back to Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides from Steele Rubber Products 2016 Open House. Next up is a classic Merc with some style of its own.
It's a 1941 Mercury convertible. It was originally built in Ohio in 1959. The fella that I bought it from had bought it from another man in Ohio, and so I got a lot of the history on it. And my whole object with this car was to keep it as original as possible, because it's a real 50s custom. It's got the chop top, and it's got a Carson type setup, which is where they block out the quarter window on them with the convertible top. It's got a lot of work in it. It's nose and deck. It's got French headlights and taillights and all lowered down. And I think the neat thing about it is it was done specifically as the cars were supposed to be done. The really amazing thing about it is the man that chopped the top on this thing was an absolute artisan, because you could take that top and put it down with one hand. It's manual. They didn't have a power top back then. When they did it, they said, we're going to chop the top. Well, they whacked 4 inches out of it. But they did it very, very artistically. If you look at the slant of the roof and how it comes down and meets the deck lid, everything, the original lines are preserved. They're just reduced. Interior that's in it was done in Ohio 37 years ago. Every once in a while you see a 49 or 50 Merc. That whole era is gone by. That's why they call it old school.
1939 LaSalle coupe. I was looking for a 39 Chevrolet and found it in a junkyard. I wanted a Chevy because that was what I had when I was young. And I looked at it, let it sit there for 2 or 3 months before I decided to tackle it. I went ahead and bought it. Took 4 years to build it. Well, it was hard because you had to make about all your own parts. There was not anything available for it. And the few parts that I needed, I found in Boston in a junkyard. And so I had to go all the way to Boston to get parts out of a junkyard. There was a lot of interchangeable parts in 39 in the Cadillac in LaSalle. LaSalle had a smaller engine by a little bit, but they was interchangeable parts. Well, the favorite thing about the car is that it runs good, drives good, it's got power steering, power brakes, and air. I'm addicted to air conditioning, power steering, and power brakes. and so it had to be a street rod because there's no way I could have put it back to original. I've been driving it for 10 years now. My kids are tickled to death that I didn't find the Chevrolet because they like the LaSalle and it's more popular. And it's a rare car. We've been driving for 10 years and have not run up on another one.
Time now to learn about Dustless Blasting's tools and opportunities with Brian Loans.
One of the neat things about Dustless Blasting is they open their facility up to potential customers so they can come down and get a look at exactly how the system works and what goes into building the systems. I'm here with Mike, who's come down from Canada to give the Dustless Blasting system a test drive. Mike, what got you interested in Dustless Blasting?
Blasting without dust. clean up the shop a little bit, higher productivity, just options, you know, so we can expand and do what we need to do cleanly and have a comfortable work environment for our guys.
You're in the business of painting big stuff. We're not talking pickup trucks, we're talking dump trucks and heavy equipment.
Big stuff.
So when we talk about the needs, your surface preparation needs are going to be different than a typical body shop, right?
Much different, yeah. We have to blast clean, and anywhere we can minimize hand prepping with a clean blast and efficiency, we'll take it, you know. Have to.
You gave me a good stat earlier. Give me the size of your paint booths in your shop, because this is good.
We have 4 booths, and they're 65 feet long.
Yeah, 65-foot long paint booth is not something anybody who's ever built a hot rod has ever seen in their life.
Not exactly. That's it.
Well, what's been your impression coming down and seeing the manufacturing and then getting a demonstration of the system?
So far, you know, the manufacturing's nice. It's been impressive. I like the facility. I like the building. I like the equipment. I just want to, you know, continue the demo, get the big one going, big compressor, and see what it can do.
Cool. Well, Mike, thanks for coming down and check everything out. Hope everything goes well in your demonstration. And again, it's a great thing to be able to come down to Texas, use the system yourself, and make your own judgment on just how effective it can be for your business.
After the break, we feature a Fairlane like you've never seen before on Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides. Welcome back to Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides from Steele Rubber Products 2016 Open House. Next, we have a Ford with a little more fang than your normal Fairlane.
1969 Fairlane Cobra. Actually, when I got out of the military in 1976, I found this car at a car lot in South Florida, bought it for $442, kept it for 38 years, and finally last year decided to rebuild it. I kept it for 38 years before I decided to do something, and then it took me 2 years to do this at this point right here. It's just something that I had, and I figured as the time went on, I had lived in Florida for a little while, lived in North Carolina, lived in Virginia. I just kind of drug it all with me. I thought, well, someday I'll rebuild it kind of after the kids get grown, and you know, that's my project. And I just finally kept it, and then I didn't see that many of them on the road. I figured, well, maybe I should keep this thing and just redo it, and that's what it came down to. I had a regular Fairlane, similar to just a 302 small block, and then I actually happened to see this, and I thought, well, that's kind of rare. So I went and actually bought it, but didn't realize how rare it was until about 15 years later when I had a Martin report done. It's one of 1,200 made. It's the original 428 Cobra Jet, 4-speed, non-air, AM radio, you know, disc brakes, drum brakes in the rear, 4-speed, 10-volt top loader. Did everything myself on it except for actually the paint and body and the motor work I had done, but all the suspension, interior, everything I redid. Totally had it all apart and redid it. Oh yeah, it'll spin the tires pretty good. So, and I kind of try to take care of it because it is, like I say, something rare. So I'd rather take and just be careful with it and have a good time. Go to the events, enjoy talking to people and just mingling. And that's what I really enjoy.
It's a 1973 Ford Courier. The Courier was built for Ford by Mazda to compete with the Toyotas and the Datsun trucks. They kind of went away when Ford built the Ranger, the small Ranger. They're gone. A lot of them are gone now. You probably won't see another one in here today. You may not see another one this week or this year. I haven't seen another one, and I've been eyeballing these trucks for 30 years. They're just not out there anymore. What attracted me to this truck was when I was a kid, my neighbor had one. And I always wanted one and I always wanted to do the V8. So it took me a while, but I got it. And I like the idea of the V8 engine in the small truck. If you're a Ford man, now if you're not a Ford person, you won't think so, but there's a lot of lines in this truck that go along with the early to mid 70s Ford trucks. And that was their plan. They did the same thing with the Rangers. They tried to make them look like the full-size truck. It's not pretty. If I want to stop and talk to a crowd, I don't have to tell them to back off of it. A little boy the other night said, "Can I get in your truck?" I said, "Yes." I opened the door, let him climb in the truck. It's got scratches and nicks, but it's what I call a Saturday night hot rod. You drive it, you work on it. If it gets scratched, it gets scratched. I mean, it's not that I'm going to abuse it, but I'm not going to baby it either. Because I can drive it and not worry about it. But it's a good attention getter. When I drive it somewhere, I just need to plan on being gone a long time because somebody will want to stop and talk, and I'm more than happy to stop and talk to them because I love it. I love the truck.
It's a 1963 Ford Falcon Tudor wagon. I have a habit of going through Craigslist looking for old cars, and it popped up on Craigslist, and I sent a picture of it to a friend of mine who's a Ford buff, and said, "What do you think of this car?" And he said, "I think we got to go look at it." So I sent him a message, sent the guy a message. He had said someone was coming to get the car. I sent him a message back and said, "Well, if anything changes, give me a call." And a couple days later, he called. We went out, looked at the car, and I went and picked it up a couple days after that. I actually purchased the car pretty much how it looks. There was someone that was building the car, become ill, sold it to a friend of his. The friend had it for many years, and I purchased the car a little bit more than a year ago, and did a lot of mechanical work to make the car run better. But the person that originally was building the car never got to actually enjoy the car. So when I bought the car, nothing really worked properly in the electrical. The headlights didn't work, no ground, it didn't want to start. Really didn't run quite well when I first got it, so they had a lot of electrical repair done. Carburetor rebuilt, mainly just tuning, running, a new set of roller rockers, things along that line. Plans for it at this point, do a little bit more suspension work in the front. Going to put a 5-speed in it, make it more drivable, maybe change the rear gears. It's got 389s in it, I think with a 5-speed and maybe a set of 350s, make it just a more drivable car. The car is very different. There's not a lot of the two-door station wagons out there. It's a very light car. I think from the factory they're roughly 2,800 pounds. So I mean, you're talking approximately 450 horsepower, 2,800 pounds. It's a very small car, and it's just a lot of fun to drive.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll show you a wagon built for fun and family on Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides. Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides is being brought to you by Steele Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. Flowmaster, the exhaust technology company. Z-Max, the one product for your engine, transmission, and fuel system. And by Dustless Blasting, it's the future of surface preparation. Thanks for joining us for Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides from Steele Rubber Products 2016 Open House. Next, we showcase a Chevy made for family fun in the sun.
This is a 1962 Chevrolet Impala 9-passenger wagon. It's all original metal, all original interior, and I took the motor and rebuilt it professionally. It's a 454, and I put an R4 transmission in it to match up with my gears. I put air in it because you have to have that down here in North Carolina. I never touched the interior. That is all original, just like it came from the factory. I found out from a fellow who used to work for the guy that originally owned this car, and he told me, "I want to tell you a little bit about your car. It's all original metal and all original interior," because I worked for the guy that owned that. I was looking for a car, and I see this in a barn. I said, I gotta have that. That's the one I'm gonna have. And I bought the car against my wife's wishes. But when I brought it home and started going to the shows, then she liked it. So she put the picnic bags in the back, because that's what people normally did. Took their wagons and their children for picnics. And we enjoy it. I've been to Knoxville, Tennessee, to the Southern Nationals, and try to frequent most of the car shows. I haven't seen very many. I see some Bel Air wagons in this year, but all the shows I've been to, I haven't seen any. A fellow was building it, and unfortunately he passed away and didn't quite finish it, what he wanted to do. And I've still got a lot of work to do on it, but we have a lot of fun with it. It's a nice car, rides good, runs good.
1957 Chevrolet replica. The body designer was Eric Brockmeyer. The construction and owner the first time was Bryant Boatworks, Jim Bryant. The oil upholstery was done by Paul Atkins. Got the 572 Dart engine done by Eagle Race Engines. The frames by Art Morrison. He built 2 of them. The other one looks close to this. He's built 5 cars. He's built 3 Corvettes, 2 57s. This car was redone in 2006. Originally it was built in 1999. And 2006 he tore the car down to the frame, repainted it, and removed the 502 he had at the time and inserted this 572. I've seen this car for years at the Grand Rod Run, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And one day I walked by, it had for sale on it. So it didn't take long to purchase the car. The scoops are functional, and they need to be there for the engine sticking up inside them things. So it would be a crash if they weren't there. It's not that high when you're sitting in the car. You can see over it fine, not a problem. Well, I've driven it about a 2-hour one-way trip, but the guy I got it from ran the power tours. He ran the East Coast about 3 times in it. He told me he drove this car from California back to Tennessee, across the desert. And I can tell you, every time I've driven the car, temperature hand never moves. So he's got it designed well.
It's a 1962 Plymouth Savoy 2-door sedan. The engine is a non-advertised option. It's a 383 cubic inch. It was a 343 advertised horsepower. Comes with 2 4s, solid lifter cam. It's a sleeper. I had to rebuild the motor. I dynoed that motor when I put it together, and it dynoed about 360 horse. I found this car about 5-6 years ago. Been a work in progress, trying to put it back the way they originally came. I think originally that motor was developed for police use, highway patrol or FBI or whatever. I talked to a former FBI agent who drove one of these cars back in the day and said that, you know, the car he drove was very similar to this one, 2 carburetors and everything on it. So this here was the lowest production year that Plymouth ever had, 1962. Well, I think the design, you know, it was kind of off-the-wall design, and I guess the public really didn't appeal to them. So it was one of those cars you either loved it or hated it. It was kind of one of my favorites. So yeah, I get on it once in a while. It'll run pretty good.
That's all we have for this episode of Dustless Blasting presents Dream Rides from Steele Rubber Products 2016 Open House. Join us next time when we'll be in Tecumseh, Michigan for the I Did It Car Show and Open House. See you then.